So this video is about Josh Warrington and the breaking news today that he has vacated his IBF World Championship. Obviously I think the IBF had called for the Kid Galahad aka Barry Awad rematch, and Josh Warrington has decided to vacate his IBF title, and because he believes that he deserves bigger fights. He's looking to fight Gary Russell Jr. out in America. I find this quite a bizarre thing to do, vacate his title, because Josh Warrington in the UK is a massive ticket seller, and he's really worked hard to get in the position of being a world champion. So I was very surprised at the fact that he's vacated the title instead of having the Kid Galahad rematch, considering he was the winner when they fought last time. Although it was a very close fight. Personally, myself, I thought Galahad had it by a round or two. But when you think about when you actually think about Josh Warrington, and you think about the route that he's gone, you know, domestically, he beat Randall Monroe for the Commonwealth title, fought Martin Lindsay, he fought the Aussie Joel Bronca, beat Patrick Hyland, beat Kiko Martinez, and then he really come into his own when you think about, his win against Lee Selby. He beat Carl Frampton. These are big names that he beat, and the IBF called that for him to fight Galahad in a rematch, and he's vacated because he wants to have bigger fights. I mean, I find that bizarre personally, considering he's fighting Mauricio Lara in his next fight. Weird, very weird for them to drop the title. Josh is only 30, he's young, he's fresh, he hasn't got mileage, he does a shitload of tickets in England. He could quite easily do Ellen Road when COVID and lockdowns out of the way. A big boxing night out in Leeds. He could easily do Ellen Road. But yeah, he's decided to vacate, which is such a weird situation, isn't it? Because when Galahad and Warrington fought initially, let's take it back further. Josh Warrington was Sky and Eddie Earn. That's the platform he was boxing on, and then he ended up not renewing his contract with Eddie Hearn, and he ended up going over to BT and Frank Warren. And he's fought when the Galahad and Warrington initially fought. He was a BT fighter and Galahad was a Sky fighter. The fight was a split decision. Warrington ended up getting the win. Loads of people thought Galahad won the fight. Coincidentally, Eddie Hearn was banging the drum saying, Kid Galahad won that fight by 2 or 3 rounds, and the rest of it. So fast forward a few months, Josh Warrington re-signs with Sky. Eddie Hearn's then asked regarding the fight, and he said, well, it was a draw. And then he's pushed on it several other occasions by some journalists, and he said, actually, I had Warrington winning the fight. After initially his view was that Galahad won the fight by 2 rounds. So Eddie knows what he's doing. He'll just bat for his man. He don't care. That's what Eddie Hearn's about. He likes backing his man. You can't fault him for that. It's just he does it. He does it with a little bit of tongue in cheek and a smile, and he gets away with it. But Galahad's been really pushing for the rematch, and on socials he's been every opportunity he's calling Warrington's name. He's consistently tweeting Josh Warrington, and you know I think today's news of Warrington vacating the IBF title, I think to mainstream boxing fans, and sort of your avid boxing enthusiasts, I think it will be quite a bit of a shock that Warrington's decided to vacate, because it's not like he's vacating and he's guaranteed a world title shot, or and even if he gets the shot against Gary Russell Jr., I'm telling you, he don't beat Gary Russell Jr. He can't. Gary Russell Jr. is a different level to Josh Warrington. So if you're talking about going out, what's he going to do? Go out to America, get a payday, and get his head punched off by Gary Russell Jr. I mean, it's bonkers, absolutely bonkers. He should have kept hold of the IBF title. He could have just had a keep busy fight, wait until lockdown's over, crowds are back, COVID's done, and he could have had the rematch of Galahad. If not at Leeds Stadium, any arena in Yorkshire, and he sells it out within 10 minutes. This is Josh Warrington. He's become a bit of a darling amongst boxing fans. Like I said, he's had a real tough route. He hasn't had anything given to him. In all fairness, like you can't knock Josh Warrington. It's not like I'm reluctant myself to even say that him vacating is ducking Kid Galahad, because it's not. He's fought Galahad. He's got the W over Galahad. And it was a good fight. It was a close fight. And if they fought again, I think Galahad beats him. But I don't think it's set in concrete. I don't think Kid Galahad beats him every day of the week. Or if they fight 10 times, I don't think Galahad beats him 10 times. If they fight 10 times, you're likely to get a 5-5, 6-4, either way. So I just find it very puzzling that he's decided to vacate a world title that he worked extremely hard to get. The guy beat Lee Selby, Carl Frampton. These are not easy wins. These are not easy fights. These are hard fights, tough fights. When they were made, they were 50-50 fights. If not 60-40, 70-30 against Warrington. Many people picked Frampton to beat Warrington. Many people picked Selby to beat Warrington. Let's be honest, Josh Warrington, it was known as a ticket seller, and that's about it. But the lad works tirelessly. He grafts. He is in the gym. He does what it says on the tin. He turns up and he's got an engine, and his punch output's unreal, and he just loves to have a tear up. He don't have a bad pair of whiskers. He doesn't punch ridiculously hard, but he doesn't. He's one of those fighters that he does everything good. So he's not exceptional or fantastic at any one thing. He's just very good all round, and those guys are hard to beat. But the option was fight Galahad in a rematch or vacate. He's decided to vacate, and whether that's because he's been promised something by Eddie and Matchroom, maybe they're in his ear saying, listen, drop the title, we'll get you bigger fights, we'll get you bigger paydays, we'll get you Gary Russell Jr. In America. It is a big payday for him, but I don't think Warrington is the type to be chasing that sort of payday, when honestly he can do Ellen Road with Galahad and earn bundles of money. I find it very puzzling. Unless what they're trying to do is they're trying to get Galahad in a position so he fights for the vacant title, and it's probably going to be Kid Galahad versus Jazza Dickens, and Galahad's beat Jazza already a few years ago, knocked him out on Channel 5. But they're probably going to get him in a position to fight Jazza Dickens for the vacant IBF and try and manoeuvre Warrington against one of the other champions, and in the hope that Warrington can win, so then they can have an all British unification at some point. But if that is the route they're going to do, they need to swerve Gary Russell Jr. because Gary Russell Jr. will knock Josh Warrington out. He's too skillful, too fast, too strong. He's just better in every department. But overall, odd decision by Warrington to vacate the IBF World title. So it looks like it's going to be Kid Galahad against Jazza Dickens for the vacant IBF World title. Yeah, so that's that.